Oh yeah. Welcome to Sonetta Studios. We don't get no better than consciousness info. Sonetta TV7. You keep it hot 24/7. You got that back for 102. Sonetta TV2. Yeah.
You are now inside Sonetta Studios, the House of Consciousness production, Black News presentation.
Yeah. Peace and Black Power family. Y'all already know what it is. Man.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Sonetta, baby. Sonetta, what up, though, bud?
What's going on, Mr. Clyde? How you?
Hey, man, another day, another penny.
Oh, man, you know how it go, man. I had to give you a call because, got to get some of this information, some knowledge and information going through, bringing this knowledge back to the people. So what's happening with you, man? Had the new year? What? Happy New Year to you?
It's been a fine new year. A lot of things complicated. Everybody's upset because last year, we sat on the couch. I'm so proud of Black Americans that they refuse to go vote. They refuse to listen to Kamala Harris or even Trump. They decided that we was gonna honor the couch, and I'm so proud that we honored the couch.
Okay, all right. So you proud that the people didn't go and vote?
Yes.
Oh, Brother Jabari might be a little upset with you saying stuff like that. He tried to get the people to
why
vote.
would he be upset?
He was trying to get the people to vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah, well, Kamala, she's a black woman, but the point is this: is that she getting that white thing, and she got that white man in the house with her. He laying that rod on her. Look at her; she looked like an old hag. She was a beautiful young thought back in her day. Willie Brown, downtown Willie Brown, he still probably can reminisce, but she ain't got the feel now, man. She ain't got it.
Hey, you seen her standing up there with Biden today, right? They did their little speech, talking about bringing peace and bringing the peace from the war that's going on.
Well, the thing is, you mean over there in Ukraine and Israel, they can't end that, man.
Israel
they can't end that because see those people, they got their chance to exterminate their enemies, so they want to exterminate them. Remember that they supposed to be, even though they're not the biblical Hebrews. Remember the Hebrew, back in the day in the Bible, they wanted to destroy their enemies, and that's what they want to do today, but they can't do it. Too many of them are like roaches.
So what do you think about the Hebrews of today? Do you think they were the same people, the Hebrews of history and the Hebrews of today?
I think
the Bible versus the Hebrews of today.
I think the Ashkenazis, I don't think you can consider them Hebrews.
It's right.
You can't even consider them as being Sephardic. They're not Sephardic. Because they don't have that linkage. But the Black Hebrews over here, some of them may have a link, because remember during the early history, remember the Moors used to come over here and trade, and if you remember, the Moors often had interpreters, and these interpreters they could usually find in one of those indigenous villages somebody who could speak Arabic or Hebrew. That's the only way they could have been interpreters, right?
Right.
Because remember, according to Leo Viner, in African Discovery of America, African people were going up and down the coast selling tobacco. They were the earliest, in our day, people used to sell reefer. Tobacco used to be kind of like reefer, and they would go up and down the coast all the way from South America up to Canada selling tobacco. So that's how that was that introduction in terms of them getting over it. Plus, I think it was some years ago they did a thing on the cocaine mummies. Do you remember that?
Yes.
So and they found cocaine in the mummies. So we know that that there were black people over here even before Africans came. There were already black people here.
Okay. So I've been watching your channel lately, and I see you talk a lot too about the also you deal with the Native American history as well. So you cover a lot of topics. Talk to us a little bit before we get into the body of our topic. Talk to us about the natives. Are we Native American as well?
Of course, of course, because you have to look at it from this perspective. Is that during the early 1800s, what happened during the early 1800s is that Oliver Cromwell he went over to Ireland, and when he went to Ireland, he emptied Ireland of the black Catholics, the black Irish, and so many of these black Irish, some were sent to the Caribbean, some were sent to North America. As a result, many of you guys that grew up who have Caribbean background, you're my cousin, because we had the same brothers and sisters who were black Irish who were enslaved. See, the first chattel slaves in America were in a sense the black Irish. Then as they conquered various indigenous black tribes, they made them into slaves too. But the first one was the black Irish. That's one of the reasons why they had the potato famine in Ireland, because all the black Irish who were the original settlers, the original farmers, they had been sold into slavery. So it wasn't any people in Ireland who really knew how to work the land. And so then when they talk about that the Irish came over as chattel slaves, those were white Irish. The original Irish that was sent to Jamaica, Barbados, and all those places, they were black Irishmen. That's one of the reasons why a lot of times if you go to Jamaica now, you can look at the list of the so-called slave masters that used to be in Jamaica, and you'll find that many of the people there who have Irish and British names that don't relate to their slave masters because they weren't slaves. See, it's very complicated. See, it's very complicated and it's scary. See, Sonetta, it's very scary for you to believe in a sense that you had agency. They taught you, they taught I, that we didn't have agency in the Caribbean. We didn't have agency in North America, that we were just, in a sense, some slaves, and we were just here, in a sense, waiting for the European to exploit us. Yes, they exploited us, but at the same time, in a sense, many of us were already here.
Okay, because you got some Native American teachers that teach that they are strictly Indian. They are not black. They don't have no African in them. They are pure Indian. We know that's a joke, though.
Yeah, that's a joke.
Yeah, that's a joke. We already know that. But anyway, man, the body of your teaching, man, you bringing it back to the days of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when you talk about the origin of the white man. I'm anxious to see where you're going with this. You know,
I don't go to Yakub because the Yakub supposedly did it with did some genetic splicing,
right?
Whereas really, in a sense, my discussion is a lot different. Did you want me to start it?
Yes, let's get it in.
Okay.
Family, sit back, relax, and get your questions ready. All right, your PowerPoint is up. I see it.
Okay. So let's get started then. Okay, origin of the white man. There's many theories about where the white man came from, because we like to believe in a sense that that some people say that the white man originated from albinoism. Then other people, in a sense, say that the white man originated, from through Yakub, who was a scientist, and then he mixed some genes together. But it seems as though there's a more natural reason for the origin of, in a sense, the white man. See, the much of this cognitive dissonance, and cognitive dissonance is a mental conflict that occurs when beliefs are contradicted by new information. This conflict activates areas of the brain involved in personal identity and emotional response to threats. The brain's alarms go off when a person feels threatened or a deeply personal and emotional level, causing them to shut down and disregard any rational evidence that contradicts what they previously regard as truth. So many people have believed that the Neanderthals, yes, they believe that the Neanderthals were the first Icemen, and that these Neanderthals were the first whites. No, and all of the archaeological and genetic evidence shows that the European shows, in a sense, that the European or the white man had already, in a sense, was not in existence back in those days. But what we do know, in a sense, is that Neanderthals were black people just like us. In fact, the only thing different between a Neanderthal person and a contemporary black person, in a sense, is the fact, in the sense, that they had these large bridges right across the frontal lobe, and it was these bridges across the frontal lobe that distinguished them from contemporary black people. My belief is that the white man evolved into whites during the Ice Age. I explain in Blacks in Europe, that's one of my books, modern Europeans originate in Central Asia. They de-evolved, very important to understand. Black people de-evolved from Cro-Magnon blacks into Caucasians after being trapped in the caves of Europe from the Younger Dryas, 12,900 to 11,700 BP, down to the Santorini volcanoes. So what happened is that many black people during the period of the Younger Dryas, it got real cold. Because it got cold, many of the caves, if you notice, they find in the caves all these drawings and all these illustrations. They've also found artifacts in these caves. And what it was is that these black people, they went into the caves to find shelter, to get out of, in a sense, the last ice age. The last ice age, when it struck so suddenly. Yes, it struck so suddenly that they found mastodon. And these mastodons still have in their mouths. They still have in their mouths, the cud from chewing on the grass. So they froze while they was eating. So what we find, in a sense, is that it was very difficult. And so when those black people ran into the caves, in a sense, these caves collapsed, the entrances to the caves collapsed. And then, in a sense, these black people who were living in the caves, they de-evolved. They de-evolved. Because, see, the caves are total blackness. The caves of Europe were seen as temples by the ancient blacks of Europe. Here they congregated and used them like temples. In the caves, these blacks recorded their history and worshiped their gods. During the Younger Dryas, there was a sudden drop in temperature. Archaeologists found frozen carcasses of mammoths with preserved stomach contents. This led some archaeologists to assume that this ice age appeared suddenly because they found some of the animals in a standing position. Think about that. A position that suggests a sudden extinction of the mammoths. Think about this, that they found, in the sense that the last ice age came so quick that the mammoths, they couldn't even run and hide. They couldn't even, it was just so cold right away. I mean, it's unimaginable. I'm up here now in Illinois now, and it's cold as hell. But I can still go outside, and I can still walk around. I can still get in my car, or I can walk into a store or something. But just think about the last ice age. It came so suddenly that these animals and these humans, in a sense, they just froze in place. The first Europeans were definitely black when they entered the Caucasus caves. This is the reconstruction of Cro-Magnon man. I know you've heard about Cro-Magnon man. Many archaeologists and many of the older books, they claim that Cro-Magnon man was the first European. Yes, he was the first European, but he was not the first Caucasian, because the reconstruction of the skulls of the Cro-Magnon man shows, in a sense, that Cro-Magnon man was not what we would call a Caucasian. Cro-Magnon man was, in a sense, in reality, he was what? He was black like you, black like me, black like us. The black Europeans evolved into Caucasians during the Ice Age. I explained in Blacks in Europe, modern Europeans originate in Central Asia. They devolved from Cro-Magnon blacks into Caucasians after being trapped in the caves of Europe from the Younger Dryas, 12,900 to 11,000 BC, down to the Santorini volcano. And Santorini is an island in the Mediterranean. During the volcanic eruption of the Santorini volcano, many of these cave openings collapsed, and as these cave openings collapsed, many of these black people who had de-evolved into what we call the Caucasians today, they began, in a sense, to come out of the caves, and they began to spread around Europe sometime around 3000, 4000 BC. The caves of Europe were seen as temples by the ancient blacks of Europe. Here they congregated and used them like temples. In the caves, these blacks record their history and worship their gods. Since the last ice age came suddenly, these blacks who were hiding in their sanctuaries de-evolved. Since the last ice age came suddenly, you can see some of these pictures of the people. In the caves, due to the absence of sunlight, the Cro-Magnon man lost the melanin in their skin. The melanin left the skin and congregated in the hair. That's one of the reasons why you find that many so-called Europeans, whereas you find most of the Arab whites, they have black hair, but if you notice, in a sense, among Caucasian people, it's the hair where we find this variety of colors: brown, beige, black. So in a sense, that's because the fact is that once the melanin began to leave the skin of those black people who went into the caves and de-evolved, what happened is that the melanin went into the hair. And that's why you find Caucasians have various colored hair and stuff. In the caves, due to the absence of sunlight, the Aurignacians lost the melanin in their skin. The melanin left the skin and congregated in the hair. This is evident when we look at the depigmented creatures who live in the caves. Here's one of the cave creatures that we find today. If you go into a cave, deep into the caves, you find these type of creatures. They've lost all melanin. In fact, they're almost see-through. This is evident when we look at the depigmented creatures who lived in the caves. The drawing from the Grotto de Marche shows the various facial changes that took place among Proto-Europeans who remained trapped in the caves until after 1400 to 1200 BC. Look over here on the right-hand side. Look carefully. See. These are the various faces that Europeans have found in the Grotte de Marche. You see. So as you can see, those people who lived in the caves back in the day, they didn't really look like contemporary humans. Look at them. Look at the various types of people, the various forms of the head. Look at the various forms of the nose. Look at the pronasticism. Look at how their chins stick out and stuff. But these are authentic pictures. These are authentic pictures from the Grotte de Marche, you see. And as you can see, these people lost their Negroid features and became more serpent-like. Yes, they became more serpent-like. I have no explanation of why, when these black people de-evolved, when they became depigmented, I don't know why they became more serpent-like, but these are the pictures that how those various humans who were living in the caves, this is how they represented themselves in the cave art. Yes. Yes. See? That is why you do archaeological research. That is why you have to dig deep. That's why you go into these caves and see, you find knowledge, you find history in these caves. Yes, you do. Man created a massive network of underground tunnels. This is very important. Now listen to me. Listen to me. There's crisscrossing tunnels that lead all the way. Listen to me. These tunnels underground lead all the way from Scotland to Turkey. Can you imagine? They've found caves where you can get into the cave in Scotland and you can walk all the way from Scotland through these caves to Turkey. Yes. There was a new book on this ancient superhighway. German archaeologists said evidence of the tunnels have been found, hundreds of Neolithic settlements all over the continent. Seemingly never-ending series of underground tunnels are confirmed to be man-made, and the architecture boggles even the most sophisticated designs. Here's one of the tunnels. Think about that. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that for thousands of years there were people in these caves, and that for thousands of years these people could walk all the way from Scotland to Turkey? But this is what the evidence shows, see? But this is what happened once they had that ice age. Those black people went into the caves. They became depigmented. And as they became depigmented, they de-evolved from being, in a sense, pigmented and melanated down, in a sense, to being depigmented, to the Caucasians who we see today. German archaeologist Dr. Heinrich Kusch said evidence of the tunnels has been found under hundreds of Neolithic settlements all over the continent. In his books, this is the book he wrote, Secrets of the Underground Door to the Ancient World. I repeat, the title of the book is Secrets of the Underground Door to the Ancient World. The German title was Tore zur Unterwelt. He says the fact so many have survived after 12,000 years shows that the original tunnel network must have been enormous. Can you imagine that? Think about that. That while other people were on the surface, there were these white people, these Caucasians, going through these caves underground, living their life, developing their culture. See? But they had lost their pigmentation. They were no longer melanated. They were Caucasians. They look like these people. Look at them. Look at these people. They're very serpentine. Look at the pronouncesses. Look at the long chins. But this is how they looked. These cave paintings record the change in the Proto-European physical form into more human-like forms today. The pictures make it clear that the long chins and noses were major features of the Proto-Europeans. Check out information on the Grotto de Marche at http://pasco.lefhofer.perso.nuf.fr/La de la Marche Hum. Come back and check this site out, family. So you can see these pictures are authentic. These are pictures of those early Caucasians who was walking around in those caves. Yes, that's how they looked. They were walking around in those caves, but they were looking like this. They didn't look like you. They didn't look like me. Well, they didn't look like us. In my book, Blacks in Europe, pages 138 to 145, I talk about the first Caucasians, how they had lived in the caves for thousands of years. During this time, they probably treated each other badly. Given the lack of food resources in the caves, these first Caucasians probably ate each other and suffered many bad things. Think about that. There was no cattle, there was no wild game in the caves. So these early Caucasians, they ate each other. Can you imagine? They ate each other. You were the source of food. Other humans were the source of fuel. It was the humans, you see. They not only, in a sense, would have used the humans for food. Think about the other things they would have used the humans for. We can assume that when Caucasians lived in the caves, they early recognized that they should organize themselves into clans or tribes. The tribe would have protected its members from being preyed upon. And this is one of the reasons why you find many Europeans today have this strong xenophobia. They're in a way, they're kind of afraid of each other. And they really, in a sense, they disabuse their bodies because they don't see the body as being, in a sense, anything that's really authentic to them. They see the body as just an asset, as an instrument. Get my book, Origin Black Neanderthals and the White Race, so you can find out more. The human body provided the Caucasoid with clothing made of human skin. The human bones would have provided the material to make tools and weapons, such as knives and short spears. The bones could also be fashioned as protective armor by using human skin to bind bundles of bones together. Yes. These people, these Caucasians that lived in the caves, they would have used the human body for everything, for tools, for food, for weapons. when you understand that they saw the human body as just as a utility. They saw the human body as something that they could use, in a sense to make weapons. That's one of the reasons why now they see nothing in murder. They see nothing in abusing each other. They see nothing in being hateful towards each other, because they don't see that body as being representative of anything. Living in the caves during this time was a place of terror. It was terror because you could not trust any human you came in contact with. Due to the fear, the individual might murder you. As a result, xenophobia became the principal attitude of Caucasians. Caucasian xenophobia became a protective measure that guaranteed that their in-group, due to hatred and fear of strangers, would be able to defeat and conquer the out-group because they represented anything that was foreign or strange. Yes, yes. When you understand how they lived in the caves, you understand why they're so xenophobic today. The Caucasian xenophobia nurtured in the caves became an epigenetic feature of the white man. This psychological outlook, which manifests within Caucasians, was taken with the Caucasians when they exited the caves, as demonstrated by the aggressive tendencies of the white man today. Get my book, Origin of the Black Neanderthals and the White Race, find out more. In addition, because the human body was seen as a natural resource, Caucasians have developed the attitude that humans are a utility. I repeat, Caucasians have developed the attitude that humans are a utility. Thusly, to them, the human body is edible or an inanimate object they can do with as they please. But as you can see, this human did not look the same as the usual white type. So they had to mix with blacks and other groups to gain the human appearance that they have today. Yes. And see, this is something that's very important to understand. We want to, in a sense, give credit, and we sometimes deny the fact. Excuse me. We sometimes deny, in a sense, the fact that these people, in a sense, really have no real standing. You know, they're living a lie, and yet we allow them to manifest among us thoughts of envy, you know, thoughts of destruction, even self-destruction. You see. But again, it's very important that we understand this is my interpretation of where the European came from based on the archaeology, but there's other people who have other ideas, you know. Any questions from people on your end?
Yeah, I was going to wait until you finish the presentation and then I'm going to open it up for the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So whenever you finish,
I'm done.
Okay, so family, here we go. A nice short, right to the point, breakdown of where do the white man come from. Let me drop this link. I know a lot of people got some questions. I've been seeing them in the chat. And I'll ask the first question. So the first question I wrote down is you already answered it in there. I was going to ask you, do you believe that the white man comes from us? So you already said he did by saying he traveled, he migrated into Europe during the Ice Age period. And that's the same thing that Sheikh Anta Diop teaches, and he talks about that as well.
Well, Sheikh Anta Diop, he, in a way, he has a different idea. He talks about the Neanderthal, but in his opinion, Cro-Magnon man was white. We know now, given the cranial reconstructions, cranial reconstruction means that they take the cranium, they use clay, and they put clay in different parts of the cranium, and then that's how they can reconstruct them. Anta Diop, he thought that Cro-Magnon man was white. He thought they were the original white folks, and they weren't. You see, because Cro-Magnon man was black, just like Neanderthal was black. See, but again, in a sense, that's the beauty of research and knowledge production. Over time, our theories and understandings of the ancient world changes as we have more knowledge and understanding about the past.
Okay. So let me ask you. So you believe that the climate also changes the complexion of the skin? It depends on the climate you at? And if
No.
how long does it take for the
No, it's not the climate. It's not
Okay.
the climate. It was being in the caves. The lack of, because you remember your melanin is stimulated by the sun. But by being in the cave, if you notice, remember I showed you that picture of how in the cave, in a sense, those creatures became almost transparent. They became so white because they had lost all their pigment. So you would lose your pigment because there would be no sunlight to keep the pigment, vigorous.
Well, I'll give you a demonstration here. I understand what you mean. It's like if you have you ever seen somebody with a broken arm and they have a cast on their arm, and the cast is there through a period of time, maybe 3 months, 2 months, or whatever to heal. And when they take that cast off their arm, it's lighter, they sweatier, the arm is sweatier, and you'll see it's light. The arm gets light. Like say you see my complexion, but my arm would be way lighter than my whole body because it's been absence of sun. It's like it's been in a cave, and it's been sweating. What do you think about that?
I think that's an accurate account, because we want to, in a sense, we want to see a difference and we do see a difference, and it's hard. Come on, think about it. It's hard to believe that the way as cruel as white people are, as basically evil as they are, even towards each other, it's hard to imagine that they could have evolved from us, but they didn't evolve from us. They were de-evolved. They de-evolved. They lost their pigmentation. They lost their consciousness because they had to use each other for food. They had to use each other to make tools. That's why they hate the body. Look at how they treat the body nowadays. Look how much masochism you find among Europeans, and how the beating and how a lot of them. I think today one of the most popular things is to feel pain while you're having orgasm, something like that. I don't know.
Do they DNA? If the European take a DNA, do they DNA tie them back to Africa?
Their DNA in a sense is going to relate many of them back to African people because they carry E1. A lot of them, the most popular gene among many white people is R1, the Y chromosome R1. But the R1 Y chromosome is out. 22% of us carry it. That's why, in a sense, that's why many geneticists will tell you that many Black people have white ancestry because they carry R1, Y chromosome R1. That's not true. R1 was just the ancient haplogroup that these Black people have carried for over, 10, 20,000 years. Even the earliest Black people in Europe carried the R1. The earliest Anzac baby, he carried R1. Then later they tried to change it to C. You know how the European is.
Yeah.
What happened is, Sinette, is that I'm very popular in many circles. And so once people start to regurgitate what I say, they start talking about, well, this gene is Black and that gene is Black. Then they had to kind of, flip the script, see, so that they can, in a sense, because see, if you really look at all of this, a lot of the history, you look at the archaeological finds, you look at the excavations, they don't find any white people anywhere.
All right. Right. All right. We got some conscious sisters up here that might want to challenge your information. Remember, sisters, this elder right here, he been doing this work for years. He's an author of books. So y'all be careful which lane y'all crossing now. And let's be respectful. Let me go on over to Sister Freedom first. Sister Freedom, you got
peace, and I respect the elder.
Yeah.
Peace, but I'm gonna have to say
you could disagree respectfully. It's all good too,
with respect, and I'm glad it's coming through because it's saying my stream didn't come through yet. But
yeah, I see you.
I just do not agree. I think that we cannot speak for nature, because if you are going to say that the white man came from the melanated man, then you have to say the Chinese man and every other race came from us. And with that saying
no, I don't.
Let me finish my statement.
Go ahead.
Please. Okay. What I'm saying is, for every other race to come from our race, they would have to be our race. That would just make common sense thought that if you're trying to say that these people are you saying that they migrated, went into another place and then turned white? I mean, that don't make no sense to me.
Okay.
I mean, to me, I'm just saying that don't make no sense, because if that was happening back then, it would happen now, and it doesn't happen now.
How many do you know anybody that's lived in the cave for 1,000 years?
Well, you don't really have no proof that that actually even happened.
But see, we do have the proof. See, let me explain to you.
And even if they, wait a minute, let me finish.
Go
And
ahead.
even if they did with the scenario that Sinetta gave, okay, and I don't know why we picking the last man that was even ever made, which was supposedly the white man, since you're going to go by what everybody's saying. They're saying that the white race is the last race. So, you know, all these races that was prior to the white race that it didn't happen to, why would it happen to just the white race? I mean, that alone doesn't even
because see,
make logical sense.
Okay,
let me finish. The scenario that Sinetta gave was that when you put a cast on your arm, and then your skin start getting lighter. But what he's not saying is that your arm comes back to its actual pigmentation and color. So what I'm saying to you, even if those small bit of people that you talking about went into the cave and turned supposedly white, okay, that was a small portion of people that you talking about. We're talking about people that's on the planet now. Then you gave a scenario that they looked like these animal type people, what have you.
What's
know,
the
I don't know if you're about something that somebody
let him answer you, question. Let him answer you, Freedom. Ask him the question.
Okay.
What's the smallest racial group on the planet Earth? Caucasians.
Okay.
Okay, so then the thing is this: if you remember, what I said is that if you get a cast on your arm and your cast becomes and your arm becomes paler, after you take the cast off, because of the fact that you're interacting with solar energy, over time it's going to get back to its natural color. But when you're thinking about people who were in these caves in a situation where they had been depigmented for thousands of years, there's no way that they could go back, because that mechanism, that genetic mechanism would have in a sense changed. So it wouldn't have been able in a sense to be able to go back to changing back to the original complexion.
Wait a minute. Okay. Now let me just
let him finish. Let him finish, sister.
Okay. All right. Now, let me make sure I got this right. Nature has the ability to make different birds that's flying in the sky all over the place. Different ones now. Nature has the ability to make different sea creatures. All in the seas, the oceans, the rivers. You got different. You can even go to different parts of the world. And nature has the ability. She's so smart that she puts trees in certain places that's not over here. Nature has the ability to make different animals, different insects, different, so many different things. You mean to tell me that we got to go, our human minds got to go past the ability of what nature can do and make up this crazy story about these other type of people that supposedly came from us that would have just been like us? We don't have tails. Wait a minute, we don't have Neanderthal DNA.
Hold up for 1 minute, Freedom. I'm going to pass it back to you. You got to keep in mind, Freedom, that during that process, during that time, there was no sunlight getting through the clouds because it was so thick. So it was always a gray sky out there at that time of the ice age during in Europe. So
playing yourself.
There was no sunshine
was in the caves.
Right.
If those people was in the caves, like you trying to make it appear to be, they'd have froze to death.
Hold up, Freedom. There was
why would they freeze to death? If you get
you go stand in the ice age, and you just because the way you making it sound like somebody had to put them there. So you saying that wait a minute, you okay, even if they walk, so what they walk with? What in order to walk? Because hell, if I go somewhere and I see it's cold, I'm turning around and going back the other way. Okay, none of it makes no sense. Why you just can't give nature her just due? She made different
Freedom.
forms of
You
people.
don't know about the
Different
history.
times.
Hold
At
on,
different
Sister Freedom.
times.
Hold on. You don't know about the history of the African migrating up into Europe during the Ice Age?
I don't agree with it. I
Oh,
don't agree with
yeah.
it. Well, I mean, I got my rights, right? I don't agree.
Okay,
What I'm
you're right.
saying
You can do that.
I have my, I think with a mind that just, you know what I'm saying? I don't care who says what. If it don't make no sense, it just don't make no sense. And
Okay.
we cannot speak for the abilities of nature because we just can't, it's just something we can't comprehend. It's like comprehending how this world began and how all of this is, if it's a mirage or not, or we can speak for what happens after death and before death. It's just like at different times in the evaluation. I know that words are kind of weird. I don't care about all that you might be showing because that's some old, to me, some cracker story. Some cracker story.
This is archaeology, man.
Wait a minute. Let me. Wait a minute. This is just my opinion. To me, I mean, this. I don't have to be right, but you gave what you thought it was, and I gave nature her just due, and I'm a bow to her because I know she has the ability with her, the sun, the more, and all that has the ability to create all kinds of different things. We've seen insects and animals that we ain't never seen before.
All right, Freedom, let them go. Let them go. Hey,
can you find the sun? Does the sun in a sense shine inside of a dark cave passage?
What I'm going to say to you is, no matter what you say,
they
had to come out the cage in order to get water or whatever they was in. They had.
Why would they have this water in the caves? It's water in caves.
Stop playing yourself. Stop playing yourself.
It's water in caves.
Stop far-fetching it. No.
But it's water in caves, man.
They just another kind of people.
All right, hold on, Sister Freedom. Now you come from Sister Freedom. You come from the Nation of Islam. Now, I know you heard the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach on this many times.
No, well, you can't use that on me. I love Elijah. I ain't got nothing to say about him, but that was his thought. This is my thought. I got you.
I respect that. I got to respect that. Let me move on over to Professor Doctor. You want to explain the slides you're showing?
Well, this is a creature that you find in the caves today. This is how the creatures look in the caves.
Look like a shrimp. Is that a shrimp?
It's kind of I forgot the name of it, but it's kind of like a shrimp. But as you can see, this is their complexion. This is their complexion because they become depigmented because there's no sunshine. Remember.
And they grew tails too.
Hold up, you gotta let them go.
Why would you grow a tail in it? You don't need a tail in the cave.
I just threw that out there. That was just a slippy. I threw that. I was being smart.
I love the joke.
I was being smart.
No. But you're right. But you're right, sister. You should question everything. You should question everything that someone tells you. But the thing is that what I'm saying is that when you look at the creatures that they find in caves today, and you see that they're depigmented, then it can kind of tell you how those people, remember, those people had been in the caves from 11,000 BC to 3000 BC when there was the volcano at Santorino. That means that they were in the caves for 11,000 years.
Freedom. Hold on.
I am. I'm just wondering why the kids ain't black. Once you saying they was in these cages for hundreds, thousands of years.
Hold on.
Freedom. Got it already.
Hold on for 1 minute.
Let me finish, Sue.
Go ahead,
got it already. Got it already created a light-skinned race. And that light-skinned race would be the so-called white Arabs. The white Arabs, in a sense, God had created them, so God had created a light-skinned race. But see, Caucasians and white Arabs are totally different. Caucasians and white, Arabs have black hair. Caucasians have various colored hair. Because the fact, in a sense, is that as they de-evolved in the caves, the melanin began to move away from their skin into their hair. And so, yes, God did create a light-skinned people, which we call the Arabs today. But the Caucasians, on the other hand, they are descendants of those black people who went into the caves and sadly de-evolved.
I said nothing about Arabs.
Hold on, Freedom. Check this out, Sister Freedom. You know how we get in the wintertime. Like right now, it is so cold up here in Harlem, and it's winter, and my skin have gotten lighter and lighter. You know, we get pale in the winter. Can you imagine if we was to go through this for 1,000 years straight with no sun coming through? Because the clouds, hold on, because the clouds is blocking it. It's so thick in the air. That's the way it was out there. It was so thick. The sun wasn't really penetrating through in certain areas. So that's all I'm saying. You got to look at it like that too, Sister Freedom.
Okay, let me say this, and I'm gonna get off, right? I'm gonna say this. If they walked into the cave, right? I'm just saying, they walked into this cave. You mean to tell me they could walk out?
But why would you
telling me that the sun is on the outside?
Yes.
You telling me these people couldn't come out? I mean, because they had to eat, they had to get something
the interest is
Clyde. You're not letting me. But what you are using as your excuse is the sun did not go in, but right. The people had the ability to come out. So they got the sun.
But they was going outside, Sister Freedom. You keep saying like they didn't go out. They was going out to hunt and dragging, bringing they would defecate. Hold on, they would defecate in their own decomposed body. You heard Dr. Clyde said that they were eating each other, eating juniper roots and all of that.
Can we actually identify which cave we're talking about? Because there was caves all over. Which cave are we talking about?
I don't know what cave they talking about and trying to make that stuff.
Maybe in the Caucasus Mountains.
I don't get it. This is crazy.
The Caucasus Mountains in Turkey, but I just found out that I'm half Scandinavian, so I'm like, oh, found out.
You're not half.
Let me show you.
You're not half Scandinavian.
Hold on.
Now tell her what she is. Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
I love his smile. He has a beautiful smile.
Go ahead, Genesis.
Show my screen.
Okay, here your screen, Genesis.
What in the world?
I love your name, Genesis.
What's up? I did my ancestry, and I was so surprised to find out, that Nigerian, West African, all this other stuff, and then boom, Scandinavian. Okay, I don't know what is going on here. Sweden, Norway. Right, and then I find out that there's caves there and all type of wild stuff, and I don't know whether it's my great grandfather. Can you, sir, tell me about the Scandinavian? Because I've always heard people say, "Well, I'm part Irish, I'm part this, I'm part from England." Where does Scandinavian fit into also the slave trade? One thing, because I'm like Scandinavian.
Well, then, okay. When you go back to this, you got to look at.
Hold on. I'm not done because it's not the Scandinavian. So then we have South Asian. Mm-hmm. I don't know what an Inuit is. Japanese and Korean, Middle Eastern. I don't know if this is even real. I don't know.
A little Japanese and Korean in you.
Japtalian. I'm Japtalian. Yeah, I'm Japtalian. But I'm like, what? Like so. South Asian, Inuit, whatever that means. So I guess maybe that's we the ones that came over.
Those Eskimos.
Is that so? I'm an Eskimo. I'm a Japanese, Korean. I'm South Asian, and then I'm Scandinavian.
No, they just saying that's the blood. You have some blood, and you only 9%. That's
Let me explain to you, sister. This is what happens: is that when you do a genetics test. What they're going to do is that when they check the blood, after they analyze the blood, they're going to show all these different haplogroups in the blood, Y1, E2, E3. It's going to be hundreds of them, and then what they do, they count them up, and then the haplogroup number that has the most, and they'll say you're Y, they'll say you are. See, a lot of that is bull because you have to understand this is that. Remember. African people are the original people. They were the first people. As a result, we know that the R1 haplogroup, which is supposed to be a white haplogroup, which is not. We know the R1 haplogroup was carried by the Yanama and other cultures as early as 7,000 years ago. You see? Originally the white man, the white man was really happy. And then the white man said, aha, R1 is a white haplogroup. Then this guy did research, and he found out that R1 was also carried by black people. So what they did is they said, shit, damn, baby. So they said, no. Those black people aren't R1, they're V88. But the haplogroup is still R1, but they just say V88. See, it's always keep you confused. That's why you have to always stay sharp in terms of looking at the various haplogroups, the various genetic information, because the Europeans, because of the fact that as they do more and more archaeological research, and as they test ancient DNA, and they find that these ancient skeletons were carrying black DNA, they have to try to find a way to disguise it. So then they'll just say, that's not a black gene, that's a white gene. See, and so that's why, in a sense, DNA is very difficult for Europeans, because they thought that when they discovered DNA, that was going to be a way that they could finally prove that ancient people were black, because white, because they kept doing these archaeological excavations. And whenever they looked at the skeletons, especially the cranial features, when they looked at the nose area betrayed that ancient man was, in a sense, a Negro or a black person.
So here's the thing, is that in Scandinavia, in Norway, they are known as Neanderthal. Also, here's another thing, is that we always talk about the Caucasus Mountains. The Caucasus Mountains over there in Turkey somewhere. They're closer to like lower Europe type of area. Yeah. This is all the way up in Lord knows where. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm like, okay, and then I find out, okay, these were cave dwelling. Also, but they don't.
But see, those people don't go back to the caves, ma'am. The Scandinavian people don't go back to the caves.
Well, no, they said they lived in caves as well. So
no, the Scandinavian people, they go back to the day. And see, what I'm talking about is that when you look at the history and the archaeological research, the earliest people to set up Europe, the earliest people to live in England, to live across Europe, were what we call the Anu people. This is the pygmy people. The pygmy people you see today down in the Congo. The skeletal remains show that these were the Anu people that occupied ancient Britain, ancient Germany, and all that type of stuff. These people were later conquered by the taller blacks, us, people like me, you, 5'6", stuff like that. And so then what happened, in a sense, is that we conquered the Anu people. And as we conquered them, we replaced them. We kept those little short women. Short women look real pretty. And where you going, Dr. Winters? But anyway,
wait, you just took my page. I just was showing something though.
Go ahead.
There, in recent years, there have been archaeological finds in caves in which strongly suggest human inhabitation of Scandinavia before Welshel glaciation, at least 500,000 years ago, presumably by Neanderthals. So I don't know.
Neanderthals are black, though.
This is where my ancestors, Neanderthals, came from.
Yeah, but they were black. They were black like you. The only thing is that
Neanderthals were black in Scandinavia.
Yeah, they were black. They just had a really strong cranium. They had a really strong cranium. See, their cranium was real thick, and so that's what made them feel, in a sense. See, those people that they show you, it wasn't any white Neanderthals. But those are just pictures that they made up so that they can kind of give themselves a presence. The Neanderthals were black.
Wow. I just wanted to come on and say wow, because we know it's sad. It really is. You know what?
Man, hold on, Sister Freedom.
Just be quiet.
This is the first time you heard this?
I've always heard that the Neanderthal is the other mother people, okay? The unidentified object that no so-called African, and you are truly African, have Neanderthal DNA.
But that's a lie, because the Neanderthal.
I know you done read that somewhere. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, see,
I don't agree with you.
See, the thing, ma'am, is that the European, he wanted to differentiate himself. And what happened is that when they first discovered the Neanderthal skeletal remains over there over there in Germany, what they found, in a sense, they found some remains of some niggers. And they said, damn, I know damn well I wasn't a nigger. So they said they were beasts. They made them look, that's why they gave them the wide noses, the slumped over. They made them look like they were beasts. That's not how they really looked. They looked like you and I. The only thing is that they had a strong bone structure above the eyes. See? Okay. But see,
well, that must be a different type of people then, because they say the Africans didn't have Neanderthal DNA. So, but I'm saying It could have been another type of
That's what
people
they used to say.
that was dark.
But see, that's
And
what they used to
let me also say that
Go ahead.
when they're saying it, it's likely they had. Likely they had. So it's likely it's not a fact, right? They likely had this and they likely had that. And they make like a whole little like fake Neanderthal thing.
Yeah, like I don't get
Say,
this.
okay, this
You
is
know
what
what?
Neanderthal looks
Anything
like.
them people say we
But
believe.
that's what it likely looks like.
Like we don't have our own intelligence to think what makes sense and what don't. I don't even know understand why we repeat anything that they say. I mean, seriously, we really, really do, and don't. I mean,
if Neanderthals were in caves, why would they? If you just showed like a shrimp that was in the darkness,
but
why would their skin be?
The Neanderthals didn't live in the Neanderthal. Don't get it twisted, ma'am. The Neanderthals did not all live in caves. They didn't live in caves.
I wouldn't even
They
want
had-
some people to come from me.
They didn't all live in caves, man. They lived in regular parts of Europe. You know, and in fact, see, originally when they discovered the first Neanderthal skulls, they found out that the Neanderthal skulls, you know, like when they did the measurements of nose, they were black people, except they had a really broad bridge over the eyes. And so then, because of the fact that black people were enslaved, they said they were savages. See, now they're trying to rehabilitate the Neanderthals. Now they're trying to, in a sense, make the Neanderthals look as though they were white people. But that's just a lie, just to try to give them some sort of stance. Because see, we don't know where the European came from. At least they don't. I know where.
Well, I have a question.
That's what I was saying. Why you care?
Based on my 29% of Asian and then Caucasoid, am I Caucasian?
No.
Okay.
No. But if you want to be, you can say you're Caucasian.
No, I'm just listen. I'm just trying to figure out what thing to check off when I like be doing
See,
my.
See the Europeans. I told you before, when they did archaeological research, when they excavated these sites, when they dug into these ancient civilizations in Europe and Asia, they found all these black skeletons, and they said, "Damn, I'm tired of finding black skeletons." So they was hoping that DNA could differentiate white people from black people, but we all carry the same DNA. You see,
because we all are forms of nature. You know what else carries? Animals, fish, trees. Everything has some connection to us. You're a part of the all, and the all is a part of you. Everything that's in existence that breathes has a part of each. Everything forms from nature. Everything bleed. You ever see animals kind of take care of their babies and stuff exact same way we do?
Well,
So they're saying pretty much that they found that Neanderthal genomes had very few SNP alleles associated with light pigmentation in today's people. So no blue eyes, no green eyes, no blonde hair. They suggested that the Neanderthals had been dark skinned, brown or red hair, and brown eyed. So
yeah,
just keep that word light.
They look like you. They look like you. They look like you.
I don't like no damn Neanderthal, man. Yeah, I ain't no
damn.
It doesn't matter.
We accept and believe anything.
See, those are just names. Those are names that the Europeans did so that they could try to differentiate peoples. See, they don't want to admit the fact in the sense that when God
keep mentioning albinos do not have brown eyes. They have like red eyes.
Maybe we made the white man in the laboratory.
Well, like I believe in a sense, I'm a creationist. Because I'm a creationist, I believe that God created all mankind.
How you a creationist? You believe in God?
Yeah, just because God and because God in a sense created. See that.
What is God? I meant to ask you that the last time you was on here. What is God?
God is all. God is the knowledge of the infinite. God is the total blackness. God is.
That's what God is.
That's what God is. Because see, God in a sense is, you know, some people want to say he's male, other people want to say he's female. The Bible says we're all in the image of God. The Quran says we're in the image of God. And so the thing is, that's it. But see, to me, in a sense, God is my friend. God is my power. God is my guide.
So, okay, wait a minute. Because you said that, let me say, because I heard you the last time you was on here saying you believe in the Bible. So you believe that the all made a baby with Mary?
No, I believe this. I had to look at the Bible. I don't believe in everything in the Bible. I've never said I believe in everything in the Bible.
Okay.
Because see, the reason I said that is
last time you
because
was on here, you believe that a man actually floated in the mouth of a whale. People was asking you questions. That wasn't you. That wasn't you. It may not have been you.
All right. Hey, hold on. Sister Freedom
Am I being
and Genesis. If y'all want to dispute or rebuttal or anything that he got, show your sources. Freedom, where's your sources at?
What you mean?
I've been showing sources the whole time. I came in with my source. I showed my Caucasian. I showed my Scandinavian.
Sign that up.
Yes.
I said,
where do the white man come from according to your information, Freedom? According to your information and your sources,
I'm asking a question. You trying to do it, Dewey. That's a slippy. Stop.
No, go ahead.
The only thing that I said was I'm asking a question. And guess what? He don't even got to answer. It might have, he said that wasn't him. I thought he was the pastor that was on here the last time. That might have not been him. So I'm going to take it all back. I'm going to take it all back because he got a beautiful smile.
The thing is this, that we're always arguing about the Bible. Do you know that Alexander Cromwell, Oliver Cromwell.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Cromwell killed over 200,000 Black Irish because they believed in Catholicism. Mm-hmm. Our biggest mistake, Black people, our biggest mistake is that we are the only race on earth. We can forgive the white man what he do to us. We can forgive the Asian man what he do to us, but we cannot forgive each other. It is so hard to forgive each other.
I agree.
I
agree. It's very sad. I mean, I don't know what that had to do with the subject, but I agree with you. We are our own worst enemy. Yep.
Y'all asking me to ask him a question. Y'all welcome to come in, hit the link, and you can ask him the question. This is the time for y'all to come in and ask the question. Let's go.
I wasn't necessarily debating him. I was more or less trying to understand, right? Because a lot of the time when we talk about like the caves and this, that, the other, right? We're only talking about the Caucasus Mountains, but the Caucasus Mountains are in Turkey. But I just found out that my ancestors are from Scandinavia. You know what I'm saying? Were they in caves? Were those Neanderthals in caves? Who are those Neanderthals that were in Scandinavia? And why are they white? Why are Scandinavians white now? If the Neanderthals are black, why are the Scandinavians white?
Because let me explain to you. Is that the real Scandinavians or the Danish people? If look at the original Danish people, they had big lips, they had wide noses, things like that. The original Danish people were called, in a sense, were from the Moors. When you go back into history, see,
you know what? Let me put myself on mute.
Come on, Freedom. You got to let them go. Come on.
I'm on mute. I'm putting myself on mute.
Okay. So let's look at it from this perspective. Originally, in a sense, the first people who settled Europe were the Anu people, the Pygmy people. These Pygmy people were later followed by taller Black people who brought in with them farming and cattle rearing. They brought in cattle rearing and farming. And when they brought with them their cattle rearing and farming, these people, in a sense, they began to occupy various parts of Europe. At the same time, in a sense, around the period around 3000, there was a volcanic eruption called the Santini eruption. When this eruption occurred, it opened up many of the caves in Europe. I mean, in the Caucasus Mountains. As it opened up the caves, it began to release these people who had de-evolved, Caucasians. Because you can look at a white person, if you put a white person and a white Arab next to each other, you can tell the difference, you see. And so then we know that white, but you can put, sometimes you can have white people who look just like Black people though, see? Because the fact, in the sense, is that they de-evolved. But the point is that this de-evolution is just to keep people straight. The Danish people, in a sense, were originally, these people were the Anu. Then later, in a sense, they were replaced by the early Moors. See, that's why, a friend of mine, Dr. Short, what you do is that whenever you start really doing a lot of research, whenever you do a lot of research, just like now, if you went to Ancestry.com and you put in there, if you put in there your grandma and your great grandma and all that, and your grandfather and all that, if they keep going back, before you know it, they're gonna start putting white people. They're gonna start putting white people into your ancestry. Because they go, and then you maybe go back and end up being related to King Charlemagne. See, and that's because the fact, in the sense, is that these people were black, but over time, in a sense, they started doing wars.
Okay, so I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, can you show this? Can you show my screen real quick? All right. So this is what Scandinavian people look like. Okay.
Yeah.
This is like the actual like phenotype of a Scandinavian person.
Those are the recent. They're not the original.
How did they go from a black Neanderthal to a white person with blue eyes, blonde hair, straight noses, thin lips, from a thick lip black person?
Because during the 30 and the 100-year wars, what happened, in a sense, is that many of the black Europeans, they began to recruit mercenaries from the Caucasus Mountains. And as they began to recruit mercenaries from the Caucasus Mountains, more and more light-skinned or white people began to come into Europe. That's one of the reasons why they had a famine in Ireland. The famine in Ireland resulted from the fact that there were no Irishmen, there were no black Irish who knew how to farm. Because they didn't know how to farm, they started starving, you see. So that's because of the fact, during the 30-year and the 100-year wars, as these, in a sense, as these, Protestants began to recruit. Because see, the Protestants, they hated Catholics. As I told you, Oliver Cromwell, he killed 200,000 in 10 years. Black.
This is like far from the Neanderthal, right?
Yeah.
So the black Neanderthals were in Scandinavia, and then how do they go from Neanderthal to a regular?
They bred by 32,000 BC. They began to be bred out. They were outnumbered. We came in, and I mean, damn,
outnumbered by what? Some other kind of creature?
By taller black people like me.
Okay,
if I say, listen, I'm nice. Let me finish. I'm nice. I'm a nice brother. See, but some of them short women, some of them short black women look sexy as hell, baby. And back in the day, I just take the woman I want, baby. And so if I'm made with that short lady, and she look and say, "Ow, whoa, baby."
But Nordic people are very relatively tall, and they have. So, do you say that there is like some kind of a thing that went into the Scandinavian mountains or whatever's going on in Scandinavia, and began to merge with the Twa people to create the Scandinavian? Or how does that happen? How does it go from being a black race to a completely Caucasoid, blue hair, blonde-eyed race? They did not say that the Neanderthal. They said the Neanderthal. Okay, you said it was black. Okay, it has red hair, brown eyes, this, that, the other. Where was the mutation that happened, and what is the? Where is the?
Let me explain to you, sister. The Neanderthals and the contemporary Scandinavians were separated by 40,000 years. 40,000 years. You see, and because they were separated during this period, see, you're getting time periods mixed up. You say you had to look at it from that perspective. And so then
50,000 years the Neanderthals existed, and then where
all right, hold on, Genesis. Let me bring on somebody else. Yahuda, Ben Israel. What's up, man?
Yes, hello. How you doing, Shanetta? Mr. Winters, it's an honor to be able to ask you some questions.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Winters, I have a question. There's a lot of information coming out about these Black Europeans and Black European families, right?
Right.
So my question is, I'm in Europe. I keep seeing these artifacts that look like the copper-colored. They depict, or they look like how the copper-colored Indians were depicted here in the Americas, right? And my question is, because I can't remember exactly where, but I've been reading where they've been talking about people where there was a relationship even in Europe, of these people coming from America or something like that. But it wasn't spelled like America. And I'm wondering, is it a possibility, which I do believe, because of the architecture that is the old architecture here in America, where they have these old architecture that kind of reflects these old architecture that was taken from those Black Europeans. But have you ever looked into that at all? And
Well,
is that a possibility that it could have been like a relationship? Because what my belief is that um, that there was a relationship that stemmed from the continent to Europe to the Americas.
well,
So
well. The thing is this: is that it was a relationship, but it's how you want to look at it. For example, we know that there's a culture that was in South Africa and Europe called the Solutrean culture, and this is based upon the tools they made. You know, the tools they made, arrows and things like that. So they found that many of the tools that date back in the Americas to maybe 20,000 BC relate to Solutrean tools that you find first in South Africa and then you find in Europe. See, the thing is this: is that we want to believe, the European has made us believe that there was no interaction between peoples on the earth before the white man came. See, the white man had taught you that everybody stayed in Africa, there was African. Everybody stayed in Asia, there was Asian. The only people who traveled the world was the white man. The white man was the only one who built boats and went here and went there. No, that's not true. There were people traveling all over the place, you see. And the only way that we can tell their relationship is through the tools that they used. Because the tools that they used, like the Solutrean tools that they used in many parts of Virginia, you see, they go back, you know, to Africa. For example, we know that there were humans in California 130,000 years ago, but we don't have any skeletal remains of these humans. But what we know is that they used to eat mammoth meat, and we can see where some brother was eating a mammoth steak, and you can see his teeth marks on the bones. You see, and so see, this is evidence. And see, whenever you're dealing with, in a sense, archaeological evidence, you look at it. So you're talking about, where did the Scandinavians come from? The Scandinavians, in the sense that they will relate to you, they would go back to the Moorish people. Because see, it's very interesting is that most of the Black people in Europe, you know, and this is very interesting. Think about this. The Moors ruled Spain from 711 AD to 1492. We can find evidence of many Moorish forts throughout Europe, but the vast majority of the Black people that lived in Europe, they didn't become Muslim. They remained Christian, you see. And see, what happened was that during the 30-year and the 100-year war, many of the Black Europeans began to go and get mercenaries from the Caucasus Mountains. And as these Black elites began to bring mercenaries from the Caucasus Mountains, that's how we began to see this influx of a lot of light-skinned or white-skinned people. I mean, most of the descriptions, when you look at the coins of people like Queen Elizabeth and King, when you look at their coins, you can see that they had Negroid features, wide noses, big lips, all that type of good stuff, you see. But again, this whole thing about genetics, most people was hoping, the European was hoping that once he could get genetic things, he could finally prove that certain ancient groups were white, and they weren't white, you see. And so then he's always changing. That's why he's changing the names. For example, at first, in a sense, R1 was called R1. Then later they called it V88. Then later they called it, then they gave it other names because see, they're constantly trying to fool you. Because see, I've been on the case for so many years that every time I discover a group of genes that relate to Black people, they had to try to change the name, you know, to try to hide it from the people, you know. But I mean, hey, the thing is I'm getting old, so pretty soon they'll have everybody confused. But see, that's why it's very important. And so that's why when you take a DNA test, that's why when you took that DNA test, it said some of your ancestors came from Scandinavia, some were here. That's because the fact is that when you do a DNA test, you know, as a layman, we think, oh, they just showed haplogroup R1, haplogroup E1. No, they show hundreds They can show hundreds of various haplogroups once they analyze your DNA. But then what they'll do is that they'll count up, and the one that has the most, they'll say, "Oh, that's what that nigga was. Oh, I'm sorry, that's what that black person was. That nigga was this or that," based upon the count of the number of chromosomes that relate to a specific DNA. See, so, but that's why they're so upset, because they still cannot find any way to prove that the white man had any history anywhere on the planet, except from the medieval period.
Can I say this is that, like, you know what? I know that I have a white grandfather. So that's where I assume that Scandinavia comes from. So that's why I'm asking certain questions, because I'm like, okay, maybe that's where that Scandinavia, because I know that there was a white guy involved in like the family tree, right? His name was John Murray Sr., right?
Yeah.
So John, but then the weird thing is Murray, right? That's an Irish name. So I don't know whether this Irish guy came from Scandinavia and then there was a whole Irish thing going on.
He could have been
Murray
here.
But let me tell you this: Murray.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether. I'm not like trying to discount what you're saying. I'm just trying to understand. It was at a time where the people just like flipped over and became white.
Let me say this real quick.
You're not discounting. You're not.
I am Genesis.
You didn't discount anything I said.
Hold on for a minute, y'all.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, like, how can it turn
y'all don't hear me? Hold on for 1 minute, y'all. For Damon Irvin, he says no such thing as a black European. So I just got to say, he must have never heard of the Grimaldis. The Grimaldi people, they was the first people to leave Africa, Mr. Winters. I don't know if you following me on this. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but it was the Grimaldi people. They were called the Grimaldis, and they was the first one to go up into Europe. And so when they found the first bones there, the structures, they was like damn near 10,000 years at the time when they found them. They were like 10,000 years old. Go and look it up. The Grimaldi people. Type it in right now. Grimaldi. The Grimaldi people. That's Grimaldi. Type that in. See what pops up. Because I remember my teacher, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, teaching us about the first Europeans up in Europe. And they were the Grimaldis. So, brother, you're wrong when you say that there were no blacks in Europe. The first ones there was the Grimaldi people. Go look that up. What do you think about that, Dr. Walter? I mean,
about that too.
What do you think about that, Professor? Oh, you saying, Who said? Yeah.
When you said doctor, you know who came to my mind.
Yeah, Walter. That's the spirit right there.
Right.
Rest in peace to, my brother Walter Williams. So, what do you think about that, Dr.
You added, but because I heard that before, what Sonette is saying, but why you added Dr. Winters, can you explain to me, if the white man came from the black man, where did Chinese man come from? And the Asian, all these, their body structure is different, their facial structure is different, their hair pattern, well, if that's hair, fur, or whatever it is on them, because that's why I look at white people when they smell like animals, all of that, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know why we're explaining, where these things come from.
I'm a creationist. I don't
know why you keep saying that.
I'm a creationist. I believe that God.
Let them talk. Let them talk.
Created all mankind. But the way God created mankind is like this: is that if you notice, mostly all the people that some people said they came from the Caucasus Mountains. The Asian people, the Chinese said they came from the Shang Mountains. Some of the Egyptians said they came from the mountains of the moon. See, and so what happens is this: is that I believe that there's through a process. When God, it was a book called by Rick Ramasanji. Rick Ramasanji wrote this book, and what he said is that he said that genes are constantly falling to earth whenever it rains. Whenever it rains, genes or seeds of life fall to the planet. So then, as these various seeds and insects and all that, as they fall to the planet, in a sense, I believe that it was through a process of transmutation that you got the various races. But the Caucasian race was not, in a sense, created by God.
Oh.
In my opinion, the Caucasian race was created through de-evolution of black people who went into the caves. That's why we already had the white Arabs. So God already had created light-skinned people, the white Arabs. But white Arabs do not in a sense look like Caucasians unless they go back to the Ottoman Empire and the Turkish people.
Well, can I ask you a question though? Why couldn't you just leave it as, because in a sense what you was explaining is that nature sprinkled different seeds, which makes a lot of sense. And the moisture, everything, how, in other words, what you're saying is nature made.
No, the white man didn't come from nature.
Wait a minute, let me finish what I'm saying, because the white man didn't come from nature. So the white man is I just, something about that just don't make no sense. I don't even know why. It's such a question. You know how they say God is not of confusion? That's confusion. So you say you're a creationist, which is still I'm not getting that. But then you say God, which is another thing that's making, then you say you believe, that's another thing. It's just a situation is just, you don't know. And you trying to explain somebody else's story. And it's just simple as that, because why did the white man have to come from us? I mean, first it was that all the races came from us. Because, I mean, it would make no sense. Because look, the Asian type people have their own body structure and everything, just like the white man do. Right. Smell, fur, the way they are, they own people. Everybody is their own body. That little story about the sprinkling from the sky, I can accept that more than I can accept they coming from us and hate us so much.
But they already got it already created. Look at the European. Look at how the European looked when he came out of the caves. The European, in a sense, he went through a process of transmutation. He went through a process of transmutation. And the thing is that I would really prefer, and I would like to believe that they in a sense were created by God, but they weren't created by God. They came through a process of de-evolution. That's why you can find some white people that look just like you or look just like me. You know,
I ain't never found that. But I mean, do you believe in balance? Do you believe in balance? And do you believe that everything that balances himself, balances itself out?
No. Give me a definition of balance. Give me your definition of balance.
The opposite of each other, like day is to night, like hot is to cold. You know what I mean?
That's not balance. You had to define the terms you use, because those are opposites. Night and the light is opposite. Cold and the warm is opposite. So what do you mean? Okay. What do you mean in a sense by, define that word, please?
It's just like, okay, let me say this. I can only explain because we know what we say balance is. I don't know where you're trying to go or what you're trying to get at. But the point is that what I'm trying to say next, I don't feel like explaining all that because you already know what I'm trying to talk about.
You got to explain.
But I don't.
I guess he's saying that humans de-evolve. And so that's why we get like the white man. But I wanted to show this whole thing right here. Real quick. And this is where it talks about different if I can show that, I would love to show that real quick.
Can you help her show it, Jeanette? Help her show it.
And I would like to get your opinion on what this professor said. Okay, here we go.
There's no sound, Genesis.
No sound?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me have to probably come back up.
Can I ask a question, Si, while she do that?
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Peace to the panel, peace to Si, and especially the beautiful queens, and peace to the elder. I just had a quick question. I know you can't believe everything you hear, but I've always heard about Yaqub and all of that back in the day, and I know it's not true, but I want to know, do you, brother elder, do you know where that came from? Is that something that was strictly made up by NOI, or is that have some type of history behind the myth?
I believe it was something that that Elijah Muhammad said, and you know, I can't say it was made up. It was something that he said. I don't know. I wasn't in the Nation of Islam. Because I wasn't in the Nation of Islam, I don't know the full theology. I don't know the full discussion in terms of that. But it seems unlikely. It seems unlikely that he would have been created, because see, the whole point is that the only way that you can explain the fact, in the sense that Europeans, white Europeans, Caucasians, and black people, oftentimes they favor a lot, and that white people are different from the white Arabs. They're different from them, you see. And I can explain and I can show how the white Arab, in a sense, how he came into being. But the only way that you can explain coming into being of what we call the Caucasian European people is that they became depigmented during 11,000 years of living in the caves.
Okay, bro, and I know Sai got a lot of history or knowledge about the NOI, so maybe that's another conversation. I would just want to, usually when you hear something, it's some kind of truth behind it, some kind of something that they got the name from and got the whole idea from. So I was just wondering if there was. I've never heard it, but appreciate it.
Okay, I wanted to see if you could like hear this when I play it real quick, because I want to get his opinion on this. What he said, what this guy said. All right, so let's go.
Distinct areas of biology: immunology, genetics, and reproduction. And on the genetics side, I get to go to conferences and hear about advances in genetics in all species. And I was just at one a couple of weeks ago down at the Cold Spring Harbor Lab in Long Island, and I learned a bit about what's being known about the genome of Neanderthals, the genetic makeup of Neanderthals. That the genome sequencers, led by Svante Pabo, who works in Germany, has taken tiny little fragments of Neanderthal bones, isolated DNA, and determined the genome of the Neanderthal, and used that information to determine, using genetic methods, how long ago Neanderthals and humans were a single species, where the common ancestor was. They've also been able to compare human genomes and ask the question of whether there's any evidence of Neanderthal genes in the human genome. And they found that there is. And the amount is quite significant, upwards of 5 to 7%. Neanderthals used to live in the Neander Valley. You could have called it the Cayuga Lake Basin, but that's where they lived. And out of Africa came the modern humans, and the word the geneticists use is admixed. They admixed with the Neanderthals. And they all used to live in caves in those days like this. Came out of Africa, admixed with the Neanderthals. This was Neanderthal territory. There was another group of Neanderthal-like creatures called the Denisovans. They lived up here in Siberia, and they have their genome has been sequenced. They were distinct from the Neanderthals. And so you can find in people of European and Asian ancestry evidence of about 7%, 5 to 10% of your genome is common with that of Neanderthals. We've been separated from them for 30,000 years or so. And in some of the tribes in Papua New Guinea and those islands out there, there's evidence for a different kind of genome, which is probably the Denisovan genome.
All right.
And they might have 7% Neanderthal and 5% Denisovan. So they might be 12 or 15% different from
Keep it short.
us.
Keep
And
it
in
short.
fact,
It's almost over. It's almost
the
over.
Africans who came out from Africa have no evidence of any Neanderthal genes in them. No evidence of admixture. So they're the real pure humans.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
Really, really interesting. And
That's a lie. I wrote an article. Over 10 years ago showing how the researchers showed that Africans were carrying Neanderthal genes, because Neanderthals were nothing but black people, just like you, just like me. The European.
So here's the question, though. So
Yeah.
these were like geneticists that were like actually studied the bones. So you're saying that that's a lie, but these are.
What I'm saying is that you had to read the entire article and you had to read the fine print. See, a lot of times, in a sense, remember, Europeans are trying to establish a place in history. They have no history. They have no history. They have no civilization. Look at America. What is American civilization? I'm gonna give America as an example. American civilization is what? Apple pie, right? Who made the damn apple pie? Fried chicken. Who cooked the fried chicken? You see, America's culture is what? The music is what? Black music. The language is what? Black. They always using our our ways of speaking, our ways of talk, even our vocabulary, you know. And so then therefore, in a sense, is that the European, he has tried to disguise and tried to, in a sense, through a process of imitation, to make you think he has a history and a culture. They have no history. They had no culture. You see, what they've done is that their culture, though, and much of their history, we can give them the last 200 years. The last 200 years, I give them that. You know, maybe only the last 200 years, because even the history of Europe is the history of the Black Europeans, who later, in a sense, became in a sense, they were diffused because of the fact they started, you know, recruiting a lot of Caucasian mercenaries to fight in their wars, the 30-year war, the 100-year war. See, before the 30 and 100-year war, the Europeans were mainly all Black. But as they brought in more and more Europeans to help them fight their wars as mercenaries, they took things over. You know,
so
what do you do?
What would you say about the Denisovans and the other like fossils they have found in Asia? They have
not found any Denisovans. It's just made up shit. Read the original articles. It's made up. It's made up. They said they found these Denisovans, but where are they? It's a population X. It's a population that they say existed, but they can't really prove it existed. You see what I'm saying? You know, they can say Neanderthals, but Neanderthals were just another nigger, you see? But the only problem is that until you read the original research, until you read the latest research, until you really look at it from a serious perspective. That's one of the reasons why I've been doing a lot of research over the years, is to be able to investigate these things and to give you the real knowledge. Just like as you said, sister, when they did your DNA test, they showed that you were related to people in Scandinavia. They showed you were related to people in Canada. You were related to people in Spain. That's because of the fact, in the sense, you come from the original man and the original woman. And so then the original man and the original woman carry the same DNA that you carry today, as I told you. Anzac boy, which is a baby, they sequenced the DNA and they found that he carried he carried R1. Later they said it wasn't R1, it's really C. But when you really read the original research, you can see how there was a lot of R in there. And so he carried R1. This was 20,000 years ago. 22%. 22% of people who live in America today carry the R1 haplogroup.
What's up, everyone?
That means in a sense that 22 that these Black people, there's 22% of Black people that are carrying R1 goes back 10,000 years. Let the brother come on, please. I'm sorry.
All right, real quick. I just found the video. That's what I was looking for, to see who out there talking about it. Not that many people breaks down the Grimaldi, but I found a young brother. And here you go right here. Basically, let's get it in. Nobody talking about the Grimaldi people. I just told you the Grimaldis that migrated out of Africa into Europe. They was the first goddamn Blacks up into Europe. Let's get it. Check it.
I've experienced racism myself. I bet some of you watching this have as well. It's not fun. So let's get straight into it. When I found this out, it blew my mind. Adam and Eve, the first humans on Earth, however you want to look at it, the first people on Earth were from Africa. It had very tightly peppercorned hair, like modern day Africans today, because that humans, they said, had very tightly peppercorned hair, like modern day Africans today, because that type of hair keeps you cool. But around 30, 40,000 years ago, between 20 to 40,000 years ago, a group of Africans left Africa most likely through a land bridge. And it's just a bridge that connects land, just like North and South America is connected by that Central America right there. And the Grimaldi people left Africa and went to Europe. These were the first known recorded modern day humans that left Africa and went to Europe. And about 100-something years ago, they found the first Grimaldi man. He was about 10,000 years old. And they found several people like this. And as they've done research, they found that these people had typical African features or Negro features. They had darker skin, and most of them had brown eyes, but some of them actually had blue eyes. That shocked me because blue eyes actually became a mutation around 5, 6, 7,000 years ago. Prior to 10,000 years ago, no one had white or fair skin. No one had tan skin. Everyone was black, dark skin. Okay? White skin, European features, European phenotype, blue eyes, green eyes, those are recent mutations that humans went through. Okay? Why do they not teach this? Because the more educated you are, the more you realize how the history of your country, the history of the world, even the history of yourself. The more you study history, the harder it will be to be racist towards other groups of people. The harder it'll be.
All right. Now let me say this to my man Moses. Peace to you, brother. Good to see you in the building. I ain't see you in a minute. At that time, Moses, there was no such thing as African or Africa at that time. You see what I'm saying? So what are you talking about? I'm only using Africa as a means to communicate where y'all know where we're talking about, what part of the world we're talking about. So they migrated up out of Africa. That's all I'm saying. So we need to do a little more on the Grimaldi people because not too many of us talk about that. So now when you go and look it up, you can go and get into that history, dig it up. Remember, I told you, Google Grimaldi and just get into it. I'm gonna start Googling some and probably do something on it myself. But yeah, anybody want to say something about that?
What about the Denisovans, though? What about the people that are from Asia? Do they
I'm
say
talking
that
about the Grimaldi, man. I'm talking about them. We talk about the Asian and all that stuff all the time. But go ahead.
As I told before, Denise, that's a made up. That's a made up group.
And
that's a made up group.
Right, show
they
this.
Haven't found any real skeletons.
Show what I just said. No, it just said in 2010 they found DNA from a finger bone in the Siberia's Atlas Mountains, identified Denisovans. The jawbone teeth from a cave in Tibet were found to contain Denisovan protein signatures in DNA. Tooth in the cave in 2022. So this is not like a made-up group. This is like stuff that they have found based on archaeological digs. So it's not like just made up.
It's a made-up group. They found a tooth, right? They said they found a finger. Okay. Where's the skull? Where's the skull of these people?
Well, you know what? I have to actually say, you know what? Because I just did a thing where we make monkeys. And I had to say that, you know what, sometimes science can be flawed, so it could be a thing where it could be.
Monkeys are phenotypically white people. Remember, they have pink skin.
So yeah, so I have to say that, I don't know, but I'm just going by the evidence that's being shown that yes, Denisovans can be proven through discovery of their fossils and DNA. So this is what they labeled them as, but it could be African or whatever. I don't know, but this is what they've said. I don't know.
The European is always trying to interject himself into some type of history. They find these things just like it's the X population now. Now they said it's an X population. I don't know who they were, what they looked at, but they say the DNA research suggests that there's an X population. There's some X people walking around. Woo, whoever the X people are. The European in a sense is a liar. He does anything to try to make it appear as though black people had nothing to do with history. That's why they don't really want to talk about the Grimaldi people or talk about the various artifacts related to the Grimaldi people, because just as the brother said, the Grimaldi people had a very extensive culture, and this culture lasted for thousands and hundreds of years. But it's just like now they used to tell you that Neanderthal was a beast. Neanderthal was not a beast. He was not a beastly man. He had his own civilization. They built their own towns. They built their own houses. They built huts. They built huts in the sense that they lived in, and they didn't just live in caves. But see, this is just a myth that Europeans use to try to, in a sense, hijack history. And they try to hijack history. And that's why now, if you notice, just like now, they found they found a pre-human skull in North Africa, and this pre-human skull in North Africa was identified originally as a Neanderthal person. Now they're trying to say that it's pre-human because they're trying to say that man originated in Europe. That's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to say that man originated in Europe, and from Europe he migrated down into Africa. But this is all a lie. But see, unless you keep up with the latest research, unless you read the articles, see, a lot of times they'll have on the news that a research article said X, Y, and Z. But when you really read that research article, it may have said something different. But they only try to tell the highlights that can substantiate the story that they want to teach us about history, instead of in a sense teaching us the real history.
Can I say something to you real quick? I'm going to get off. So
hold on 1 minute, Sister Free. I'm gonna let you go. Genesis, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you see that, or it's too small? Because I can't make it.
It's kind of small, and I also have a picture of the Grimaldi from Khoisan.
I can't make it bigger. The Grimaldi people are considered to be the first early modern human beings in Africa to migrate to Europe and the rest of the world. You see what I'm saying? The Grimaldi people skeleton appeared different from the Cro-Magnon skeleton found in same caves. So the professor, the doctor, is right. He's telling you that they were in caves. They were called the Grimaldi people that he's talking about. They were found in caves. See? So right there, he's telling you he's right. See, Sister Freedom, all you got to do is
no. Were they found white? They was found white.
No, they was not white. They were black.
No, he's not right.
Hold on. Listen, the term black was not even considered the term.
You come on. We ain't gonna do that. We ain't gonna do that. That's manip.
Can you hold on for
a good?
What I'm trying to
got a good clarifying question for the elder that will clarify that up.
Hear me talking? Nobody hear me?
That wasn't me.
I know that wasn't you. That was a brother talking. What I'm saying is, yes, we didn't use the term black that time. We didn't use the term African, but they are the people that we are today in Africa. That's what I'm talking about. The Grimaldi, that's the terms that they were using to identify those people at that time. They called them the Grimaldi. They was the first people to migrate out of Africa into Europe. That's all I'm saying. Yes, go ahead. Yes, Mr. Freedom.
Okay, I messed up when I was trying to say balance, because I got a lot of frack in the chat about me saying balance. I know what I meant. It probably just didn't come out right, but I'm talking about balances in nature. There's something called biodiversity, the variety of organisms in an environment which helps maintain balance. And I feel like that about everything. Everything that's in existence is supposed to be here in the way it is. I mean, if it was something that nature didn't want to be here, believe me, nature would have spit it out, would have got rid of it. I mean, I'm not one that believe, or I never really got into the dinosaur thingy. But if this was something that was not supposed to be here, I believe that nature would have found its way to get it out of here. I'm just saying, I see things a different way. That's all I wanted to say. I appreciate you letting me come up, sign. I appreciate the information from Mr. Winters. Y'all have a wonderful night.
All right.
Mr. Winters, you have not, I don't know if you explained to me what the age, well, I guess you might say you did, but okay. Y'all have a good night.
What is the question that you felt I didn't explain? Go ahead.
No, I said you may have thought that you explained it to me, but I see things a little differently. It don't, what you're saying don't make no sense to me. I'm just saying, Nepal, you know me. I think differently, and I explain things the way I see it. And, once you start mentioning God and all that kind of stuff starts sounding make believe and almost like you're repeating what you hear, but you're hearing somebody else say. But I mean, it just don't make no sense. The thing ain't come from us.
But see, the thing is that, automatically you've lost if you can't believe in God, you've lost your African consciousness. The Egyptians,
I got Robin's consciousness. Okay, I got my consciousness. I don't gotta be African.
But see, I'm not talking about African. The Egyptians, when you read even the Aboriginals, they talked about the great one in the sky.
But that's not true. That's just your opinion too.
No.
Let him talk. Let him talk, Freedom.
I got the evidence that the Aboriginals, they talked about God too. They talked about the great creator. And then because a European accent said, why they asked an Aboriginal, why do you say that the God and you say the sun is a representative? He said that we can say that God can be represented by the sun because the sun is the most powerful thing on the planet, and the sun is what gives life. Isn't the sun what gives life to the plants? Isn't the sun that gives life to everything? And so then therefore, in a sense, you have to have a God conscious. You have to have a God conscience to be in a way truly in black. Now you can't have a religion, and you can't, that's why black people cannot have a religion. And the reason that black people cannot have a religion, especially Christianity, is that Christianity has certain rules. Christianity says that thou shalt not steal. Christianity says that thou shalt not fornicate. Just about every damn black person I know is a fornicator. And this came from slavery. The church is full of unwed mothers. And so then we had to accommodate this because the European, he taught us to rape each other. He taught us that sex was sacred. He taught us that having a good fuck was the best. I'm sorry. having a good intercourse was the best thing that you could do on the planet Earth. But we know in a sense that if you overlook the unwed mothers in the church, then you cannot really have a church. That's why black churches never existed.
Well, I'm gonna say I agree with you on that part because I don't know how people believe in God. Now, make sure you understand. I don't know how. Long as somebody explain to me what their vision is of God, maybe then I can agree to it. Because some people believe God's a man walking in the sky. That I don't believe. You know what I'm saying? So I can agree with what you just said, but I believe that I can be God or I can be the devil. I mean, that's just my concept of it with my actions. But I also can agree with what you just your scenario of the sun and all of that. I can agree to that.
Do you know why that you can believe that you can be God? It's because the Bible says that you're made in the image of God. So you are God, aren't you?
Absolutely, because of my decisions that I make, that I make, I can be good or bad.
But it's just that I believe in the God of gods. I believe in the Lord of lords. And then the thing is this: there's nothing wrong. See, there's nothing wrong with what you believe in. Some of what we believe in, we can verify with facts, with data. Some things, in a sense, you can never verify. But the point is this: is that I taught my kids to believe in God. And the reason I taught my kids to believe in God is I used to tell my kids, I'm your father. I might fuck you up one day. I might let you down one day. You might need something. I might say no. But I said, that's because I'm a human being. But see, I said, that's what makes God, our creator, different in the sense that he's there in a sense to give you what you need and what you can understand. See, because I wanted my kids to understand that I might let them down, but I wanted them to understand that there's a greater power that I recognize as a creator, and they should recognize as a creator too. But it doesn't mean that everybody has to believe in God, because that's the beauty. That's the beauty of creation. The beauty of creation is free will, and God made it so that some people don't have to believe in God. Other people do, because see, remember, in the final analysis, God doesn't judge you. The Bible teaches that God doesn't judge you. That God, in the sense, you can ask Him for forgiveness on your deathbed.
Now, a lot of people might not agree with that, though. But thank you for giving what you just said about free will, right, Sonetta?
Yeah, no doubt.
Hey, sorry, can I jump in for
Yes,
we'll leave that alone. We'll leave that alone.
Who is that talking?
Winners.
Darnell, I just jumped in.
No, you got to turn on your camera, brother. Come out the dog, bro.
Yeah, the camera is on. I just pulled over. I just got off work, man. I had to pull over, and it's kind of dark in the car.
Speak, brother.
All right, so I had to jump on because, like, I'll say about 20 years ago, I was in the U.S. Navy, and I went on a deployment. And on the ship, we have very little things to do besides just read and look at. Back then with DVDs and stuff, right? So in the naval library on the ship, there was this book called World History and Cultures. And I looked in this book. I was in my early 20s then at that time. I went into the Navy pro-black, and I had this particular mindset already. So when I was going through this book, it broke down different cultures, tribes, all the way down to the T all across the planet. And when I got to Oceania, I seen that most of the tribes and the peoples in Oceania, meaning like Fiji, Vanuatu, Australia, Papua New Guinea, all these places, what people they was considered Desovian or whatever the white man call them. And I noticed that the majority of the people on that side of the planet, it was just as many phenotypical people who look what they would call Negroid or Africoid or whatever on that. Is that people started to name these different names like Desovian, Australoid, and all this stuff. My question is, did the white man started to change these people to different names to take away from the fact that we were the dominant race on the planet? We were the dominant race on the planet. And then you look at the Inuits. Say again.
But see, the white man had to do that because see, the thing is, this is that they teach you that the people, even though the people of Fiji said that they came from Africa, they tell you that. They would tell you that the Fijians and other people are from a different ancestral stock. They want to say they're from the Denisovians, whatever that word is. But the thing is, this is that it's all about confusion. Because see, when you look in the mirror, see the scariest thing as a black man or a black woman is to look in the mirror. Because when you look at the mirror, and then you put up a picture of the Australians, you put up a picture of the earliest Egyptians, you put up a picture of the Aboriginal people that lived in America, the Aboriginal people in South America, you all look alike. So the European, what he had to do, he had to teach you that no, you don't look alike. You're not the same. And he wanted you to believe you're not the same so that he can keep us disunified, keep us in disunity. And it's easy for us because, as I said, I'm very much ashamed that as a black person, we can forgive any other race that does anything horrible to us, mean to us, but we can't forgive each other. And that's sad. It's very sad that as a black person, it's hard for us to forgive other black people, but we can forgive Asians, we can forgive Europeans, we can forgive anybody put a foot up our ass, you see?
Yeah, but Ranoko, the late brother Ranoko Rashidi, he tried his best to educate us on the fact that, you know, there were indigenous black people, or whatever term you want to use, outside of Africa. Not saying that they were not African, but the fact of that these people have been on that side of the planet for over 40,000 years. They may have left Africa, walked across certain land barriers, and may have taken canoes and all types of stuff to get on the other side of the planet and been isolated for over 40,000 years. So it's hard for even black people to believe that there are actually other Negroid, I just use the term Negroid phenotypical people outside of Africa. And it's like, I don't see why we have the misunderstanding that, you know, we actually did evolve in Africa. We started off in Africa, but we did actually leave. And from my understanding, from how the Caucasoid did get here, is that he just basically he's just a genetically recessive mutation from black people. Blonde hair, blue eye, all that stuff. I mean, that's actually like the simplistic way to think about it. That like they always, you know, use the famous way to talk about it. You look at the brown bear, turn into the polar bear, the Arctic fox, the Arctic hare. Everything that goes to this cold, frigid places, the planet is geared towards I would say human adaptation. Every living thing has a process of adaptation. You can adapt to your environment. It's just as simple as that, just adapting. Then you know, if you even have roaches in your house, you always see 10,000 brown roaches, but it's always gonna pop up that one albino roach.
Yeah.
Everything has a trait of albinism that's living. White people are just simply evolved albinos from Africans. Yeah. And I just end it right there.
See, look at us as a lot of us over here in America. Like I have Choctaw ancestry. You know, my wife, you know, her father's family was Cherokee, and on her mother's side, she don't know what Indian they was because her mother's grandmama couldn't speak English. But the thing is this, but we gave up our Aboriginal heritage. We gave up our Aboriginal heritage, you know, to get along. See, and that's what we are. We're the type of people that we're so mean to each other, so horrible horribly mean to each other. And yet we're welcoming to all these non-black people. And this has to stop. We had to start doing, in a sense, give a little understanding, give a little credence, give a little solace to people in the sense of our own race, and stop always feeling that we had to accommodate non-black people. We had to accommodate everybody but ourselves. So that's one of the things that made it so beautiful. That's what made it so beautiful in 2024 when black people refused to go out and vote for Kamala Harris, because they said, damn, we're going to, in a sense, delineate that we're foundational black Americans, and that she is, in a sense, black, but she's for white folks. She's black, but Biden didn't do anything for us. He didn't do anything. He's going to give a speech tonight, and what can he say he did? He made it, in a sense, no jobs. No, he promised us he was going to give us a bill, in the sense, to protect us. He didn't do that. He said he always had our back. And so then the thing is that it's terrible. It's terrible. And yet, in a sense, is that we have to, in a sense, understand that we have to come together. It doesn't take complete unity. See, it's wrong to think that everybody has to be unified. See, everybody wasn't unified in the United States when Benjamin Franklin and the rest of them declared a Revolutionary War, were they? They weren't all unified, were they? It just took a few, but it was from that few became the many. But see, it's just like a lot of people say, why don't foundational black Americans start a revolution? Why do I want to burn up Chicago? I live here. Why do I want to burn up the water? We got fresh water, we got all type of air. See, it's to my advantage to use the knowledge that the white man took from us. The world operates off the genius of foundational black Americans.
All right.
We made the telephone work. We made the computer.
I definitely want to.
All right, hold on, Genesis. Hold on. I want to bring in the brother who have not spoke yet, and then I come to you, Genesis. More Yasha Ben Israel. What up, man?
What up, Sarnetta, boy, you doing it again. This is why I'm a fan of your channel, my man, for real.
What's happening, man?
For real. Dr. Clyde Winters is a professor that's up there, like with your Dr. Benz and your Ivan Van Sertimus. But I had a question for him.
Okay.
I studied history in colleges and universities as well. And in my research, to me, it seemed like to me that I've come to find that the Grimaldis, the Anu, the Pygmy, and the Twa was none other than generic classifications for the same people. Is there any validity to that? And the other question I like to ask, are the Phoenician Canaanite people the same people that were black that went up into England and Ireland as tin miners who became the original Vikings at first?
Well, the Canaanites, okay, let's go back. The Anu and all the Anu Twa, they're all the same people, you see. The Anu Twa, they settled all the areas, but then later taller black people came in, and began to push them north. And now most of the greatest Anu civilization today is now, I know you don't want to hear this, but most of them are in the center of the earth now. They have took their civilization to the center of the earth, and now they pretend to be the so-called aliens in the flying saucers. But that's another story. But the thing is this: is that you have to understand that black creativity is such is that this whole world operates off foundational black Americans. We made the telephone work. We made the light bulb work. Lewis T. Lattimore, Granville T. Woods, telephone. Elijah McCoy, he made the automatic oiling machine for automatic oiling thing for industrialization. Industrialization, everything is based on us. We brought our knowledge of agriculture that we already had here. The first slaves in America were the Black Irish and Aboriginals. Very few Africans came to America because, see, remember, by the Revolutionary War, they stopped the Atlantic slave trade, you see. But see, many of our people, in a sense, were sent to the Caribbean. See, many Aboriginal black people sent to the Caribbean. That's why a lot of people from the Caribbean, those are my cousins, baby. Those are my cousins. See, See, those are my cousins, because a lot of them were taken from America to be slaves over there. And the same people that Oliver Cromwell sent from Europe, sent from Ireland, he sent to America and the Caribbean, you see? And so then therefore, in a sense, we're one people. But the fact is this, is that we had to understand that as Black people, you had to unify around something. But because of the fact that we're so creative, because of the fact that we're so unique, it's very difficult for us to understand and love each other, you see? You know, it's very hard, very difficult.
So when you talk about these people that came from England and stuff like that, into the Caribbeans and stuff, this Jamestown that was created here in the United States, where the African Americans that were original slaves where we supposedly first came in at, is there any connection between King James, the blacks that were taken from England, and the slaves that came? Yes.
The Tudors, King James was not in favor of slavery. King James was not in favor of slavery. Most of the slave trade got really popular under King William, and that was when they got rid of the Catholic dynasty, when they got rid of the British Catholic dynasty, and they brought in William from Germany, so that in a sense he could put a Protestant king over Britain. That's how we began to see the rise of the slave trade in Georgia, you know, and other places. But see, earlier than that, there was not such an emphasis in North America in terms of chattel slavery. Yes, you did have adventurers and pirates that came to the America and kidnapped Indians. Many of the brothels in Europe was full of American Indians.
I got one more question for you. I was reading history where King James was sent to the West when the later people came and dominated and beat them in war. So did the King James, was he sent over here like to the Caribbeans, or was he sent over here to the Americas?
King James never came over here. King James, in a sense, see, it's very complicated because King James, in a sense, was a Catholic. But what happened, in a sense, is that many of the middle class in Britain, Germany, they weren't Catholics, they were Protestants, and so then they wanted to, in a sense, overthrow the royals who were Catholics. And since they wanted to overthrow the royals who were Catholics, they lied and said that it was a rebellion in Ireland, so that Oliver Cromwell in 1551, something like that, 1549. But anyway, so they said it was rebellion in Ireland so they could clean out all the Black Catholics. Even though Oliver Cromwell was Black too, but he wanted to get rid of the Black Catholics. That's one of the reasons why, in a sense, so that's why a lot of us have names like McCarthy, Macmillan, you know, McKay, and when you see the Indian rose, you know, the rose that they did after the Civil War, a lot of Indians were McKay, McIvy, Killen, all that type of stuff, because of the same people. Because what happened is that as they began to bring, you know, enslave the Black Irish, you know, it was the white Irish that came as indentured slaves. I mean, indentured servants. It wasn't the original Black Irish, but the original Irish that came here as chattel slaves were the Black Irish.
Could I say something to that, if y'all don't mind?
No. Hold on. That's it. I'm sorry, y'all. I need my doctor to close us out because it's time. I need to close this thing out right now. I want to thank everybody for coming through. And Dr. Clyde, you going live tonight?
No.
Let the people know where they can find you and go to their channel, you know, so when they go over there, they can ask you more questions.
Okay.
Let them know where to find you.
You can find me on my channel, Clyde Winters Afrocentric History on YouTube. You can find me there. And so all you have to do is go to my Afrocentric History page on YouTube, and you can find I do a show every Thursday. And I do a show on Wednesday night with Sister Eve. And I do another show, on Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time with Yoshima the Genius. But again, you'll find me every Thursday on Black History Gems on my channel on YouTube. So join me there if you can.
All right, there you go. I'm gonna go around the board. I'm gonna let everybody close out. You got 1 minute. Moray, let's go. When did you get the name? When did you get the name Moray, man? What's that about?
You know, Moray means teacher, Sanetta. That's all that is.
Tuesday?
Teacher.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
'Cause I know the
Yasha.
more use that type of title there.
Yeah. It's a Hebrew word for teacher.
Go ahead.
All right, I'd like to thank you, Sanetta, man. You've always bring the greats on here. I mean, Clyde Winters, Dr. Bean, Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Jeffries. I mean, these guys are like the spearheads of African American history. Hey, I'm glad that you've allowed me onto the show. And man, just keep up the good work. And hey, big ups to Clyde Winters.
All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And Rob McCarthy, let's get it.
Peace to the family. I always try to leave you with something to think about. I like the information that the elder gave, but I will just ask one thing for you to think about. For somebody that just came on the scene, and for somebody who is physically less than we are, as somebody who is so new and came from, don't know where they really came from, what does that say about us or them that they came in and just a few hundred years took over every culture in the whole world? So we should think about that. And I want everybody to wish everybody peace and love.
All right. Thank you, Armin Rob McCarthy. Miss Genesis in the building. Let's get it.
You know what? As I look do some research into the Grimaldis, I'm finding out that, Grimaldi man came from South Africa and migrated up into Europe. We're finding out that they actually had mixed with the Neanderthals. They were the first Homo sapiens. Grimaldi man was considered the first Homo sapien. So
there you go, Genesis.
Finding out they cohabitated for a time with the last of the Neanderthals and then developed a significant culture. So there's just more that needs to be figured out about this, and we have to find out more. So I give a shout out to the doctor. Thank you so much.
All right, there you have it. Y'all don't go nowhere yet. Let the doctor close out. Show y'all respect. Close us out, Dr. Winters.
Peace and love. And remember, in a sense, is that it's only through research, it's only through constant struggle that we can find out the truth. But the truth does exist. Thank you.
And with that, thank you, everybody. Peace and blessings. Let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. Y'all can leave out on your own. Y'all could disappear on your own. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Time to set the stage with the lights off. Let the little nigga breathe till the fight's lost. You ain't never like the room with the bright sauce. Hail Mary, they despise what the light brought. Let them roach niggas bleed if they can't see. Side nigga